You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
Well, around midnight last night, something shocking happened out in Las Vegas. Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, they both got shown the door by Raiders owner Mark Davis. And what was shocking about it is not that they didn't need to go. Yeah, they probably should go. And after Monday night's debacle, the fire did start for them two to get walked out the door. But what was shocking about it was the fact that those two were the first two to drop. Those two were the first two to actually get fired. Because I think many people thought, especially in light of yesterday's events involving Montez Sweat and Chase Young both being sent out of town during NFL trade deadline day, that Ron Rivera was going to be the first coach out in the NFL. Well, here we are. This is the next day. This is November 1st, and he's still, technically speaking, the coach of the Washington Redskins / Commanders. I'm always going to call them the Redskins, so I'm just keeping it real here. That team will always be the Redskins as far as I'm concerned. But a couple of things have emerged. Number one, Ron Rivera's on the hot seat. He is on the hot seat. It is burning hot. We'll take a look at his coaching record for the last several years, because one's got to wonder, how in the world have they justified keeping him this long? Now, of course, there's new ownership, Josh Harris, Magic Johnson there, and evidently it was ownership that played a massive hand in them getting walked out the door, sent to other teams. I'm talking about Young and Sweat. But one thing happens when you got coaches that aren't doing a great job, maybe don't handle things the way they should publicly, or maybe they're just, they don't quite have that elite leadership skill. Ron Rivera is probably one of those guys. Something happens like that trade of Chase Young yesterday, and all of a sudden a report emerges where they're trashing Chase Young. And don't worry, we'll get to Ron Rivera getting walked out the door, but this is a classless move. I mean, there's just no need for it. It's, I think, their way of trying to put the onus on the two players. By the way, Chase Young having a bounce-back year. The onus on them as poor players, but not their coaching. Jack Del Rio, Ron Rivera. Let's look at this. This is Bro Bible. Earlier today, the Commanders traded their former 2020 second overall pick defensive end, Chase Young, to the 49ers just before the deadline. And look, the 49ers have a hell of a D-line coach out there. I'm a Niners fan. Thank you, Washington. I mean, there's no telling how good this guy is about to look. Plus, he's being teamed up with his ex-teammate, Bosa. Holy crap, from college, this should get interesting. Now, as sometimes occur in such situations, we hear from, quote, team sources about all the wrong things the player did. The former team wants to save face regarding why things didn't work out with him in an attempt to explain why they got traded for a third-round pick after they used such a high pick on him a few years ago. Look, if you're Ron Rivera and it's pretty obvious the writing's on the wall, you're probably getting fired, take the high road here. Jack Del Rio, take the high road here. There's no point in this. It's a low character, low denominator move. Let's be real. It's a familiar pattern. Once a trade happens, suddenly there are whispers about what the player is like behind the scenes. According to San Francisco Chronicle's Mike Silver, very good NFL insider, Young's time in Washington was plagued by issues despite his impressive 2020 start, winning the Defensive Rookie of the Year with 7.5 sacks, 12 quarterback hits. He struggled with injuries in 2021 and 2022. However, this season seemed to be a rebound for him, boasting 5 sacks in 7 games before the trade. The story shares the following. Young, according to several Washington coaches, and other organizational sources, was viewed as an undisciplined player who developed bad habits, such as deviating from assignments in an effort to make splash plays. His off-field priorities and commitment to his craft were often questioned. He was viewed internally as a player who was plagued as a rookie. Looking ahead, Young's financial future hangs on how he plays the rest of the season. With his impending free agency at the end of the season, he now finds himself under some pressure in San Francisco in order to land a lucrative contract in free agency. This could be a really, really good move for the 49ers. I mean, it's low risk. You gave up a third. No big deal. And like I said, they've got a great defensive line coach. Good news for Young is that the Niners already boast an elite pass rusher in Nick Bosa, which should make it easier for Young to succeed. Yeah, they could be good compliments there. So, Ron Rivera on the hot seat, folks. Yeah. No team was more active than the Commanders on the day of the NFL trade deadline. This is the big lead. On Tuesday, the Commanders shipped out their two best pass rushers, Chase Young and Montez Sweat. They received a second-rounder for Sweat from the Bears and a third-rounder from the Niners for Young. It is not particularly unusual that a 3-5 team would be sending out players for picks, but it means more in the case of the Commanders. Young and Sweat were both first-round picks, still on rookie contracts, and while they are far from perfect players, they have proven to be effective pass rushers, edge rushers at the NFL level. At least Sweat is a damn good player. Young, first season, this season, showing to be a pretty good player. Guys like that are usually viewed as cornerstones to build around, not trade pieces. But Washington moved them anyway, reportedly at the behest of a new ownership group. Okay, so this is Diana Rossini. She used to be with ESPN as an insider. She's with The Athletic now. I was told Washington ownership had a strong hand in deciding to deal both Young and Sweat. Many in the building wanted to keep them because they believe in the team, but in the end, it's about the future for the Commanders. And I know many Commanders fans were not happy that they didn't go ahead and deal Jacoby Brissett out. I kind of don't blame you. I mean, yeah, evidently Brissett's been a good influence on Sam Howell. By the way, I like Sam Howell. I actually think they got a franchise quarterback there. He is, at times especially, he has been more than competent, and he's flashed. He's got a little moxie to him, you know, out there, a little attitude. Somebody compared him to Gardner Minshew, and while I like Minshew, I just think Sam Howell's ceiling is a lot higher. I do. I'm surprised Ron Rivera still has a gig, but that just tells you right there, if ownership stepped in and chose to send these guys out, that means the coaching staff has lost their power. Okay? They've taken it out of their hands. I'm surprised because I think most people believe that Josh Harris will just name Eric Bieniemy the interim head coach, and then, you know, Josh Harris will also get a win socially because Eric Bieniemy finally gets a head coaching job. Although that does put him in an interesting situation at the end of the year. You know, if Bieniemy goes, you know, I don't know, one game under 500 or something, there's going to be some calls to keep him when Harris may want to just wipe the slate clean, and who could blame him? I would rather just wipe the slate clean and start over, but you need a head coach in the interim. And this gives Eric Bieniemy a chance to actually prove, as he's most vocally said, he deserves to be a head coach. Okay, I think it's been kind of 50-50 with his offensive play calling this year. Although I will say at times he's looked better than I thought he was going to be. I think the point is, if you're a Washington Redskins / Commander fan, I think Ron Rivera's cooked. I think it's over out there for Ron Rivera. And it wouldn't shock me as soon as today, maybe Ron Rivera gets let go. I know there was a couple of different reports out there saying it's very close to happening, and a most likely scenario that Ron Rivera is about to be canned in Washington. So we got to watch for that to see if it actually happens. If they lose another game and they're 3-6, if they get blown out, that's the pivot points. If they get blown out, if they look real bad, there was a failed replay that Ron Rivera didn't look at the other day, and he was like, I didn't even see it, or something like that. And that's not the first time he's done things in a press conference where you were left scratching your head. Anybody remember the idea that he come out and admitted he didn't realize they were still technically alive for the playoffs? And everybody was like, wait, what? You didn't realize that you were? And I think it was the decision to change quarterbacks, and people asked him and related it to them being alive for the playoffs mathematically, and he didn't even know it. All right. Anyway, you know what? In fact, while I've got you guys, we can just go back and look. I mean, this is 2018, 7-9. 2019, 5-7. He was fired week 13. 7-9, 7-10, 8-8-1, and 3-5. I mean, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. I mean, he had, and really, even with Carolina, he had obviously had 3 good years. He had 1 great year, and they went to the Super Bowl. But outside of that, it's been a lot of really mediocre and below for Ron Rivera. Tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.